listening to me from, welcome to 360 Parenting with Ibukoluwa Teshle on 103.5 FM, where honor and integrity is our watchword. How have you been? How's your day been? Today has been, the day started out cold, and then now it's dry, it's a bit hot, but I hope that you're keeping well, and particularly you're dressing our children appropriately. For those just joining us for the first time, 360 Parenting is that program where we talk about everything that has to do with your children. Yes, how to raise children to be to grow to be well-rounded, well-adjusted adults that can make meaningful contribution to their country, to Nigeria, to bring about the new Nigeria that we're talking about. When you see an adult that has what we like to call a maladaptive behavior, something must have gone wrong with that adult when he was a child or when she was a child. And the whole essence of 360 Parenting is to increase our knowledge on parenting, yes, intentional parenting, because we realize that sometimes because of our ignorance we predispose our children to abuse, and if we are going to be able to protect our children, then we must be intentional about learning how to parent them. Yes, you need to learn how to parent them, and that's all that we do on 360 Parenting here on Honor 103.5 FM. For those that are just joining us, let's quickly do our did I call, you know, I would do it. Let's do our check. How have you fared in the last 1 week? We didn't do that check last week, but you know, we're here today, so let's do it. How have you fared in the last 1 week? Your parenting, yes, I need you to rate your parenting, and you're going to be doing this every week. What exactly do we mean, or what are you supposed to rate? Now, this is how we started. Now, as far as we're concerned, in the 360 Parenting Hub, we define who a parent is basically by the functions that you, or by the things that you do, or your roles or responsibilities as a parent. So if you have a child, before you can say that you are a parent or you are parenting that child, you must be doing the following things. Now, the first is, and we usually like to use, you know, spell parent and use the alphabet of the word parent to actually symbolize what you're supposed to do in the life of your child. The first is protect. The P there is protect. It is your responsibility to protect your child. You protect your child from every harm: physical harm, financial harm, sexual harm, emotional harm. It's your responsibility as a parent to protect your child. The next one there is A, attention. Children thrive on attention. So if you are a parent and you are parenting, then it means that you are giving attention to your child. It's important that we are able to do that to our children, or give attention, adequate attention to our children. And then you have our respond to them, respond to their needs, their wants, their worries, their concerns. Sometimes our children come to us and complain about things or report things to us, but we just shrug off and just say, oh, it's just a child, it would be all right somehow. It's your responsibility to respond to the needs and fears and worries of your child. Then the E there is for you to encourage your child. You're supposed to be the number one cheerleader of your child. Yes, it's not just when they're not doing well. We should also be quick to celebrate them and give them their flowers when they are doing well. And nurture your child. Be intentional about parenting. Be intentional about what your child is eating, what your child is wearing, what your child is watching, who is in your child's space, or whose space your child is in. You must nurture your child. You must be intentional about how your child is raised, what values your child is raised with. And the last one there is T, is that you teach and train your child. It is your responsibility as a parent to do that. When you put all of this together, then you can say that you are parenting your child. So I dare ask you again, how well did you parent your child in the last 1 week? Not to worry if you didn't do well or if you've not done well enough. The good thing is you can always improve. What is important is that you are conscious and you're sincere with yourself to make this necessary changes as necessary. I like to always use the word of Mrs. Fonsho Adegbola that says that we do better when we know better. Maybe before you didn't have the consciousness, but now you do have the consciousness because somebody has said it to you. So now that you know better, you must do better. Now let's go into our conversation this week. From the 1st of November, I should even have started with compliments of the new month. Did you call? Happy new month. Happy new month to you, all our dear listeners. Now, at the start of this month, that's the 1st of November, we started the 19 days activism. The Women's World Summit Foundation set aside 19 days in the month of November to speak against violence done to children. So each day, we use each day to amplify our voices against the violence done to children using different themes for different days. We started from the 1st of November and we will run through to the 19th of November. I know that we said we will continue the conversation with Dr. Oyenike Adeleke, but we'll move that to after the 19 days activism, because we will use next week Monday also to talk about the another theme. Today we're going to be talking about child neglect. Yes, I'm going to be using the next couple of minutes to call your attention to it. How neglecting your child is a violation of the rights of the child. Yes, you hear me. It is a violation of the rights of the child if you neglect your child. So to all of the, permit me to say, spam donors, yes, where you father a child and leave the child with the mother and then, just abscond. Or where you have mothers that birth children and then leave the process or the duty to mother them or the duty to raise them, leave those duties or pass the duties to maybe a grandmother or to an older sibling. Now, child neglect is a violation of the rights of the child, and it is something very, very important. And that's why today, the 4th of November on 360 Parenting, we're raising our voice to say that children need to be loved. Children need attention. Children thrive on attention. And when you neglect your child, you are violating the right of that child. And so that's even, with abandonment. That's one form of neglect. But even with those that have not abandoned their children, the children are living with them, yet they neglect them. They neglect them emotionally, they neglect them psychologically, they neglect them financially. So that's why we're going to be talking about the impacts that neglect can have on a child. Very, very important. Now, I mentioned the fact that children thrive on attention. Now, it is very, very important for every child's development that child enjoys attention from both parents. That's the father or the mother, or the father and the mother. Now, where you have just one of the parent, it becomes very, very necessary or important for the development of that child to have the full attention of that parent and have like a figure of the absent parent, still somehow in the life of that child, providing the emotional support or stability that child requires. Now, when we neglect our children, it impacts on their emotional development, their social development, their cognitive and physical dimensions of their development. And that's why it's very, very important that we speak to that this afternoon. Now, when we talk about emotional how child neglect affects the emotions of the child, you will find that when a child is neglected, that child will grow to have attachment issues. Yes. So it's either that child begins to crave and develops a fixation or becomes fixated on attachment. It's either that child becomes too attached or will be craving for that sense of attachment or that connection, and that makes that child vulnerable, or that becomes a predisposing, I guess I can put it that way, it becomes a predisposing factor, or that praise that predators can then prey on. So if you neglect your child emotionally, and that child is, we have children that are just left to grow up by themselves. So they go to school, you provide the basics. And let me say this, there's a difference between duty and you doing things out of duty and you doing things out of genuine love or interest or concern for the child. And children usually are able to separate these things. They're sensitive enough to pick when you are providing, meeting their needs out of duty, or you're doing it just because you love them. Now, if you're doing all of those things just, a sense of duty, your child will also feel it. Your child will also sense it. And it means that you're just doing those things, and the connection, that the bond that child should have, the emotional connection that should exist when you provide those things for the child, becomes absent. What you find is they look for an attachment, the next available attachment. Next available person is who they then develop the attachment with. You find that they then either become too close to they then become too close to maybe a nanny or a caregiver or or a child minder, just because you have neglected that child emotionally. Now we need to go on this break, and we will continue the conversation right after.
On 103.5 FM.
Gbogbo onínáwó pátá tó fi mọ́ gbogbo aláṣẹ chicken tẹ́ fẹ́ lò bó ti wù kó pọ̀ tó JMG's ni ẹ máa bọ̀. Ẹ má wulẹ̀ làágùn jìnnà mọ́. JMG frozen foods ni ẹ máa bọ̀. Oh yes, whatever occasion it is, chieftaincy ceremony, housewarming, naming, birthday party, or whatever occasion it is, JMG frozen foods has got your back for whatever number of chickens you may desire. All caterers, worry less, as JMG is there for you to take care of your chicken supplies, be it whole chicken or in pieces. JMG's will cut, will pack, and deliver to wherever you want it. Ajẹ́pẹ́tẹ́ bá ti ń ronú náwó ẹ ṣá máa ronú JMG's fún irúfẹ́ iye chicken tẹ́ bá ń fẹ́. Bó ti wù kó pọ̀ tó, kò sí wàhálà kankan. Ẹ kàn sí JMG frozen foods lẹ́ni ní plot 2 block F number 6 Olúbàdàn avenue Olúyọ̀lé estate lẹ́bàá Fumac pharmacy Ìbàdàn, tàbí lẹ́ka àwọn tó wà ní off new garage Akala expressway lẹ́bàá Anchor mall Katodere Akari junction Ìbàdàn. Fún àlàyé lẹ́kùnrẹ́rẹ́ ẹ pè 09062864238 tàbí 09062968870. Think party chickens, think JMG's.
I am technology.
I am culture. And I am new business models.
Want to know what we share in common?
Join us in Abuja from the 13th to the 15th of November at the National Advertising Conference 2024.
It's going to be a fully packed 3 days of top-line engagement with the theme
Navigating the Shifts, Technology, Culture, and New Business Models. Venue, Abuja Continental Hotel, Abuja. Time, 10 a.m. each day. National Advertising Conference 2024. Let's shuffle things up, dissecting the impact of technology, culture, and emerging business models on brand storytelling.
Register right now on www.nationaladvertisingconference.com. Clear your desk and save the date, 13th to 15th November 2024 at Abuja Continental Hotel, Abuja.
National Advertising Conference 2024. Be there. Be there. On 103.5 FM.
Welcome back to 360 Parenting with Ibukunlu Alteshle on Hono 103.5 FM. Today we're talking about child neglect and the impact that can have on the child. We are talked about the impact it can have on the emotional and psychological development of the child, and I've mentioned the fact that the child then can have attachment issues. The child grows up to be withdrawn, to be distrustful, or overly reliant on on a particular person or on others, because they become fixated on attachments. It's like they have a craving for it, and it would impact on their ability to form healthy relationships as adults. You know, I said when we started this conversation that, you know, where you see an adult or if you see an adult that has what we call maladaptive behavior, it means that something must have gone wrong with that adult as a child. Now, child neglect or neglect of children can also impact on their self-esteem or self-worth. When we neglect children, they grow to feel unloved, to feel that they are not worthy, you know, to feel less of themselves, and that can help or impact, not help, that can impact on them developing the ability to cope with stress in life or to be resilient. Yes, it can actually impact on that. Of course, mental health issues also come under it. They become depressed, they develop anxiety. It just impacts on how that child develops, how that child is able to interact with the environment part time. Now, when you neglect a child, it impacts on the child's ability to develop social skills. What do we call social skills? You find that children can be either aggressive or totally withdrawn. They are not able to express themselves. They just, want to just stay in a corner. They become excessively timid. Yes, that's one word I can say. They become excessively timid. And then again, it can impact on their cognitive development. It can impact on their language. How do children learn to speak? You discover that children that have older siblings are quicker in attaining developmental tasks. They are quicker in walking, they are quicker in talking, in speaking, they are quicker in, doing the things, attaining their milestones. And that's because they have other people to interact with. There's attention given to the child. But when a child is constantly by himself, when the child is neglected, that would significantly impact on that child's cognitive development, delay in speech, ability to what's the word now that I'm looking for? Functionability. That child can develop what we call attention and executive functionability problems. So neglecting children, as what's the word to use? It looks like, what's the big deal? In it, we just keep looking for words to come up with just to make noise. No, that's not what this is about. The truth about it is, when you neglect a child, whether by totally abandoning that child or being absent in the life of that child as a parent, you inflict lifelong injury on that child. That's the truth about it. We've seen cases where you just find that the child keeps falling sick, and you can't trace it to any physical, any physical condition, as it were. It's just something emotional. It's just that child is not stable. It's just that child is looking for connection with either the father or the mother, and it is absent. It's just because that child does not feel loved. It's just because that child has been neglected. Now, when you neglect your child, you are not present in the life of that child. You're not able to observe that child. If anything is going wrong with that child, you do not know. Now, when you neglect the child, you also are completely absent in the life of that child. So when we talk about child neglect, it's not just abandonment. That's one form of child neglect. The other part of child neglect is emotional neglect. Yes, you are present, you're physically present, but you're emotionally absent. The child can be what's the word, whether or not the child is present, the child can be absent for all you care. As long as you just say, you just meet the basic need, the child has eaten, or the child has clothes to wear, and that's just about it. You do not create the bond, that the emotional relationship that should exist between a parent and a child. You do not take time to create it, or to build it, or to nurture it. It is also a form of neglect. Now, there's also financial neglect. When you do not meet the needs of your child, we see children taking care of themselves. Excuse me. We've seen situations where children are the one taking care of themselves, and it is an aberration. It is a violation of the rights of the child. Now, children should not be the ones taking care of themselves. They shouldn't be the breadwinner of their homes. They shouldn't be the one. We see children Okay, so let me say this. There's this young, I'm trying to get the exact age of the child. I think that child was 8. Yes, it was 8 at that time. There were 2 of them, 2 girls, and somebody had reached out to my organization to say they saw these girls just by a popular hangout around Bodija. These girls were being molested for 50 naira or for 100 naira and all that. And then I got involved and invited the mother of these girls, and she said to me that she said it in Yoruba, so permit me to say it in Yoruba, that she would ask them to go out there hoping that they would get help. And I said to them, what kind of help do you want an 8-year-old girl standing just by a club at that time of the day? What kind of help do you want that girl to get? And you as the mother, you are sitting at home, and whatever money this girl brings is what you will feed on. Now, so that's another form of neglect. Of course, that's not even just neglect alone. That's abuse of the child, across different levels. So what we are trying to say, or what I am trying to say today is, when we neglect our children, or when we neglect children, we inflict injuries that impact on their future, their development, their cognitive development, emotional development, their ability to develop appropriate social skills. And then you find that child grow up into an adult that is not able to interact well, that's not able to act, to stay on a team well, and you're wondering what has happened to that child. You find a child that is overly dependent or reliant on other people, and you're wondering what has happened to that child. That child might just have it could be that adult had actually suffered or experienced neglect when he or she was a child. All that we have been talking about is that child neglect is a form of violence against children, and it's not enough for us to ensure that we are present for our children. That's the first one. But it's also important that we speak against child neglect. So around you, if you see that there's a parent or there's a child that is showing these things that I've mentioned, it means that child might just be experiencing child neglect, and it's important that you speak about it. This is where I will draw the curtain this afternoon. Thank you very much for being a part of this program. This is 360 Parenting with Ibukolu Oteshile on Hono 103.5 FM. I say thank you to DJ Cole for doing this again with me, and to my producer Iyaduni. Until I come your way next time, please protect that child in your care. They're the guarantee of tomorrow. Bye-bye.